Time for business then here on France 24. Of course, the really important story that we were just talking to Sarah about actually is about the European Central Bank today. Big news coming out of there. Why is it so important, Will, for the Eurozone crisis?
Well, we're expecting Mario Draghi to make good on a promise he made back in July. Let's take a listen to what that was.
The ECB is ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro. And believe me, it will be enough.
So after that, we're expecting him to be essentially creating money, which only the ECB can do, of course, in the Eurozone. He's going to use that money to buy the government bonds of countries that are having trouble borrowing on the markets themselves. That's what we're expecting, at least. It's not an uncontroversial decision, though. And to join us to talk about this, we've got Frédéric Simon, our correspondent in Brussels, on the line now. Thanks very much for being with us, Frédéric. Frédéric, Mario Draghi's pronouncements are always very closely followed, but what's keeping people glued to this one today in particular?
Well, yes, Mario Draghi is set to present some details of the ECB's new bond buying program, which markets believe could go a long way to help solve the Eurozone debt crisis. Now, as you mentioned, Draghi has already hinted that the ECB could resume its bond buying plan, which has been dormant for several months, and therefore buy back Spanish and Italian debt with a maturity of maybe up to 3 years, which would be at the higher end of the market expectations. But this is something that is creating a lot of tensions with Germany, which wants essentially strict policy conditions attached to any such move by the European Central Bank. In other words, strict commitments from Spain or Italy or any other country that they are going to take measures to reduce their deficits.
Frédéric, I suppose it's, as ever with these things, the devil's going to be in the detail. Do we know exactly what he's going to say?
We don't know exactly the full details because really such a measure, resuming the bond buying program, would be equivalent to using a nuclear weapon, effectively printing new money on a massive scale. And there is simply no immediate emergency for going that far at this stage. What can be expected, though, is a clear signal that the ECB is ready to resume this bond buying plan if the situation deteriorates enough for Spain or Italy, and with maybe some policy conditions attached. Countries could be asked, for example, to formally apply for a state bailout before the ECB is allowed to intervene on the bond markets. You may remember the discussion about the bazooka and the size of the EU's firewall. Well, this is exactly what the ECB announcement today could amount to, a substantial increase of the EU's protection against a potential bankruptcy of Spain or Italy. So the expectations are extremely high, but today's announcement is probably going to lack in detail and therefore could possibly disappoint the markets.
Frédéric, thanks very much. Frédéric Simon there in Brussels will, of course, keep across that story for us here on France 24. So, Will, have the markets been anticipating this announcement? I expect they have.
Well, like Frédéric was just saying, yeah, very large amounts of anticipation ahead of this announcement. But as such, that means trading has been rather muted as people are just waiting to see what happens. You can see the Dow Jones there managed to finish just about positive, but very small trading ranges in the last US session there, a mixed end. Similarly, in Asia, things have been rather up and down, rather mixed, but in small ranges this morning, as you can see there. Among the biggest rises is Qantas after announcing a deal with Emirates. Their shares are up 6%. We'll be talking about that a bit later.
Now, next on to something completely different, because Lufthansa's cabin crew have been on strike twice in the past week, and now they've announced plans to walk out again this Friday. We're going to have a look now at what this is likely to mean for passengers.
Passengers flying Lufthansa through German airports Friday may need to rebook. The company said it will cancel 2/3 of its flights after airline attendants announced a 24-hour walkout at 6 German airports. It will be the third strike to hit the company since last Friday. Lufthansa airline attendants are walking off the job in search of a 5% pay increase and an end to the use of short-term contracts. The company has conceded to a 3.5% raise, not enough to tempt workers after 3 years of pay freezes.
We are still here because Lufthansa has not made any compromises on their offer yet. They are sticking to 3.5% on a bad contractual runtime, which for us is unacceptable.
Negotiations between the UFO Flight Attendants Union and Lufthansa broke down more than a week ago. They have yet to resume.
We are ready to talk, and we offered many times to come back to the negotiation table. We didn't leave the negotiation table. We asked UFO to get in contact with us so that our passengers are not negatively affected by this.
Some analysts have estimated that such industrial action could cost Lufthansa 50 million euros per day. But the company is under pressure not to give in to workers' demands. It's trying to improve annual earnings by 1.5 billion euros by 2014, part of a wider effort to stave off threats from budget carriers and growing competition from Gulf airlines.
And staying with the airline industry, Qantas announced it's tying the knot with Emirates. It's a bit of a change.
Yeah, this is that deal that went down so well on the markets. They've announced a 10-year deal which will see them coordinate their schedules as well as their sales and pricing of tickets. This is to try and counter financial trouble that Qantas have been in over the last couple of years with international routes faced by rising fuel prices and, of course, increased international competition in the region. This is being seen as a way of shoring things up, teaming up to an extent with Emirates. And it's also a way of Emirates getting their way into the Australasian market, a bit more of a foothold there against their other Middle Eastern rivals. They're moving their hub, Qantas are, from European flights to Dubai, and they're also scrapping a similar partnership with British Airways, getting rid of them.
OK, and finally, we've got for you rather an intriguing story. A US appeals court ruling that a French shoe designer can patent the colour red. How on earth is this going to work, Will?
Yeah, only in very specific circumstances, in fact, on the soles of the shoes of Christian Louboutin. You can see there some of his famous creations. Now, Yves Saint Laurent came along recently and made an all-red shoe, including underneath on the sole. Christian Louboutin, he got an injunction to stop them selling the shoe in the United States. Well, now a judge has ruled that, in a way, they're both right. Yves Saint Laurent can sell their shoe as long as it's red all over. But Louboutin now has a trademark and is able to keep that trademark on shoes which have a contrast, as you see there, between the red sole underneath and a different colour on the top. That's said to be quite distinctive. So there you go. He's got a trademark on red, at least in that situation.
I've just double-checked with Will's shoes. He's no
Louboutin here, I'm
Here's a
afraid.
black, mine are black. We're all black. We're OK. Will, thank you very much. Will with the business. Web news coming up for you very shortly. Stay with us on France 24.